The sound of bolt cutters biting through chain link woke me. 22 years in the Army does that to you. Out of bed before my brain processed it, grabbed the Remington 870 from bedside safe. Loaded, chamber empty, safety on. The way my father taught me. Moved through dark house, silent. Kitchen, hallway, back door. Found worn grooves in hardwood without thought. Past photos on the wall. Great-great-grandfather Samuel standing in front of original homestead, 1873. My father with the deed, 1968, and me, Afghanistan, 2009. 150 acres of Texas hill country. Land my family had held since a freed slave named Samuel Steele bought it with 15 years of savings after emancipation. And now someone was cutting my goddamn gate. I stepped onto my porch. Motion sensors lit up the yard in harsh white LED. 4 people at my gate. 3 men in tactical vests rent-a-cop security. The 4th stood back, arms crossed, watching like a general. Even at 70 yards, even in harsh light, I recognized the silhouette. Karen Whitmore, president of Meadowbrook Estates, HOA. The woman who'd been sending violation letters for 6 months about a fence 200 feet inside my own property line. One security guy finished cutting. The chain dropped with metallic clatter. Gate swung open with rusty scream. And they stepped onto my land. Not knocked, not called ahead, not asked permission, just walked through like they owned it. I racked the shotgun, cha-chack. The sound carried across quiet air like a church bell. All 4 froze. "You've got 5 seconds to get back through that gate," I called out, voice level. "Before I call the sheriff and press charges for criminal trespass, destruction of property, and breaking and entering." Lead security guy big, shaved head turned toward me. His hand rested on holstered weapon. "Sir, we're authorized by Meadowbrook Estates HOA to..." "I don't give a damn who authorized you. This is private property. You cut my gate. You're trespassing. Leave. Now." Karen stepped forward then, moving into light with confidence of someone who'd never lost. Crimson-red blazer, tailored sharp, worn open over black silk blouse with deep V-neck. Black pencil skirt, red heels on gravel, wine-brown hair in perfect waves. Lips painted same glossy red. She looked like power, money, control. And she looked at me like I was a problem she was about to solve. "Mr. Steele," she said, voice clipped and cold, "we're here under Emergency Enforcement Authority. Your fence violates Section 12C regarding height limitations and aesthetic harmony. You've refused to respond for 6 months. We're removing the obstruction. You're trespassing. This land isn't part of Meadowbrook Estates. Never has been. Never will be. Our legal team disagrees." She pulled out her phone. "And we have full authorization." "No, you don't. Because if you did, the sheriff would be here executing court order, not rent-a-cops in costume carrying bolt cutters at 3 in the morning." The big security guy shifted. Hand moved toward his belt, toward holstered weapon. "Don't," I said quietly, voice dropping to the tone I'd used giving orders in Kandahar. "Don't even think about it." Karen's smile was ice and calculation. "Mr. Steele, you're threatening licensed security personnel performing lawful duties. That's assault. That's a felony. Lower your weapon and step back before this escalates beyond your control. I'm defending my property from armed intruders who cut my gate at 3 in the morning without legal authority." I took one careful step forward. "And I'm done talking. Get off my land." The big guy reached for his weapon, and everything went to hell. I didn't shoot. Didn't need to. The moment his hand touched the grip, muscle memory from 2 decades of combat training took over close distance in 3 strides, used shotgun barrel to knock his hand away, drove the stock into his solar plexus with controlled force. He went down gasping. Second security guy lunged from my left. I sidestepped, caught his wrist as he swung, twisted until joint strained and his radio clattered. Shoved him backward hard into third guy. Both sprawled in dirt. 6 seconds. 6 seconds. That would change everything. and Karen was already screaming into her phone, voice pitched high and theatrical. "Police! I need police now! This is an emergency!" Her voice carried across my property, across the hills. "There's an armed black man attacking us. He has a gun. He's threatening to kill us! Please send help immediately!" The words hit me like physical blow. Armed black man, not armed property owner, not homeowner defending his land, not veteran protecting his property. Armed black man. She knew exactly what she was doing, knew what those words meant in Texas at 3 in the morning, knew how police would respond to call about black man with gun threatening white people, knew exactly what she was trying to make happen. I stepped back immediately, pointed shotgun straight at ground, made hands visible in harsh LED light. "Ma'am," I said carefully, keeping voice calm and unthreatening, "you cut my gate. You trespassed with armed men. I have every legal right to—" "He's going to kill us," Karen shrieked, cutting me off. "Send everyone. He's unstable. He attacked my security team without warning. We're in fear for our lives." Big guy was back on feet now, clutching chest dramatically. "He assaulted me," he gasped loudly, "completely unprovoked. We were just doing our job." Other two scrambled up, backing toward gate, phones out, recording everything. Building narrative in real time. Creating evidence for story that wasn't true. Armed black man attacks white HOA president during lawful property inspection. That's what headlines would say if she got her way. I stood perfectly still in my own yard. Shotgun pointed at ground, hands visible, breathing steady, and waited for sirens. In the distance, I heard them. Multiple units. Coming fast. Probably every available deputy responding to shots fired call about armed dangerous suspect. Karen smiled then, satisfied, triumphant, victorious. What she didn't know, what none of them knew, was that everything they'd done in last 10 minutes had been recorded by 6 cameras, high definition, night vision, audio, time-stamped and backed up to 3 separate cloud storage locations. What she didn't know was that I'd been documenting her harassment campaign for 6 months. Every letter, every inspection, every threat. What she didn't know was that the armed black man she'd just tried to have arrested, or worse, was Colonel Marcus Steele, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, retired, 22 years service, 3 combat deployments. A man who understood documentation and chain of custody and rules of engagement. But she didn't know that yet, and I was going to let her keep talking until she buried herself so deep no lawyer in Texas could dig her out. First, patrol car screamed up my driveway, lights flashing red and blue, siren wailing. Then second, then third. Within 90 seconds, there were 6 patrol cars, emergency lights turning pre-dawn darkness into strobing nightmare. 6 deputies emerged simultaneously, all with hands-on holstered weapons, scanning for threats. Standard response protocol to armed black man call. I didn't move. Didn't lower shotgun because sudden movements get people killed. Didn't raise hands because that might look like surrender or aggression. Didn't speak because anything I said would be used against me. Just stood perfectly still and waited. Karen rushed toward deputies immediately, heels clicking on gravel, voice breaking with manufactured fear. "Officers! Thank God! That man pointed at me with shaking hand, attacked us! He has a gun. He threatened to kill all of us." Lead deputy, young, maybe 25, fresh-faced, kept hand on weapon, called out in voice that tried to sound authoritative. "Sir, put down the firearm. Put it down right now." "Can't do that yet, deputy," I said calmly. "Not until you understand what's actually happening." "Sir, I'm not going to ask again. These people cut my locked gate at 3 in the morning with bolt cutters. They trespassed onto my private property with armed security. When I confronted them, one of their security team reached for his weapon. I defended myself using minimal force. Everything is recorded on 6 cameras with audio, and that woman just called 911 and specifically described me as armed black man to generate maximum threat police response. Older deputy sergeant. Stripes, maybe 45. Weathered face, stepped forward, past younger deputy. Eyes narrowed as he looked at scene, at cut gate hanging open, at bolt cutters and dirt, at Karen and security team in tactical gear at 3 in morning, at me standing on my own porch in my own yard. "Ma'am," he said carefully to Karen, tone professional but skeptical. "Why exactly are you on this property at this hour?" "We're enforcing HOA compliance," Karen snapped, composure cracking. "This man has refused to remove illegal fence for 6 months. We have authority to enforce community covenants. We sent him multiple notices. He ignored all of them. We had no choice." "Do you have court order authorizing you to enter this property?" Sergeant asked, cutting through explanation. Karen's mouth opened, closed, opened again. The HOA board voted and authorized me to... "That's not what I asked, ma'am." "Do you have court order signed by judge?" It's being processed through our legal team." "So that's a no." Sergeant looked at me, then back at Karen. "Ma'am, did you contact law enforcement before entering with armed personnel?" "We didn't need to. We have covenant enforcement authority." "Ma'am, you cut his gate." Sergeant's voice was flat now. "You brought armed personnel onto private property middle of night without permission, without court order, without notifying law enforcement. That's not covenant enforcement. That's criminal trespass at minimum. Possibly breaking and entering." Karen's face flushed red. "He attacked us. He's dangerous. After you trespassed. After you cut his gate. After your security team reached for weapons." Sergeant looked at me again. "Sir, I'm going to need you to lower that weapon now." Slowly. I nodded. Kept movement slow. Pointed barrel at ground. Engaged safety with audible click. Set shotgun carefully on porch steps. "Thank you, sir," Sergeant said. Hand moved away from weapon. Then he turned back to Karen. "Ma'am, I need to see this court order. Right now. It's being processed. So you don't have one. This is absolutely ridiculous." Karen's voice rose to near screech. "Do you know who I am? I'm president of Meadowbrook Estates, HOA. I know County Commissioner Walsh personally. I know Sheriff Bradley. You can't treat me like some kind of criminal. I have rights." We were performing legal duties, and this man viciously attacked us without provocation. Sergeant's expression didn't change, but I saw something shift behind his eyes. "Ma'am, you cut someone's gate at 3 in the morning with armed men. How exactly would you like me to treat you?" Another deputy, younger woman, late 20s, had been walking perimeter, came back holding bolt cutters in gloved hand and cell phone in other. "Sarge, found bolt cutters with fresh metal shavings. Cut marks match blade pattern. And this phone was propped on their vehicle dashboard. Looks like they were recording from their angle." Sergeant took phone, tapped screen, watched, jaw tightened. "Ma'am, you're being detained for criminal trespass and destruction of property while we sort this out." Karen's composure shattered like glass hitting concrete. "You can't." "I didn't do anything wrong. He's the criminal. He threatened us. He attacked my security team. He's dangerous." "Ma'am, he's a thug. He doesn't belong in this community. This is our neighborhood, and he's just..." She caught herself, stopped mid-sentence. Too late. Words were already out. Thug. Doesn't belong. Our community. Every deputy heard it. Every security guard heard it. Every camera recording captured it. And Sergeant's expression went from professional irritation to ice-cold fury. "Ma'am, you need to stop talking. Right now. You're making this significantly worse." But Karen wasn't done. She'd lost control, and now everything she'd been thinking for 6 months came pouring out. She turned to me directly, polished facade gone. "You think you've won something? You think you can just exist in this area and nobody will do anything? This land should have been sold to developers years ago. Your family should have taken the money when they had the chance. But you people never know when you're not wanted. You people never understand that some places aren't meant for you people." Sergeant physically moved between us. "Ma'am, that's enough. You're under arrest. Criminal trespass. Destruction of property. Filing false police report. And I'm pretty damn sure DA is going to want to review this for potential hate crime enhancements. Karen's face went from red to white. They led her to patrol car. She twisted back once, and our eyes met across distance. For first time since I'd known her, I saw something other than calculation. I saw real fear. Not fear of jail or consequences. Fear of losing power she'd built entire identity around. First violation letter arrived on Tuesday afternoon, late March. I'd been mending fence since dawn. Spring rains had loosened posts on South Pasture, covered in mud and sweat and particular exhaustion from honest work under Texas sun. Envelope weighted in mailbox. Cream paper, heavy stock, embossed seal, oak tree, and words Meadowbrook Estates HOA. Address to property owner, 847 County Road, 335. Not to Marcus Steele, not to Colonel Steele, just property owner, like I was temporary, replaceable. I opened it standing by mailbox, afternoon sun beating down. Notice of non-compliance. Your property boundary fence exceeds height limitations and fails to meet aesthetic harmony standards as outlined in Meadowbrook Estates Community Covenant Section 12C. Required action. You have 30 days to submit modification plans. Failure to comply will result in fines of $500 per day and potential legal action. I read it twice, then I laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was absurd. My land wasn't part of Meadowbrook Estates. Never had been. My deed was registered in 1873. Meadowbrook was carved from Morrison Ranch in 2019, 6 years ago. They were newcomers, transplants, people who'd arrived 5 minutes ago with money and lawyers. I was history, roots, family that remembered when this was all cattle country. I folded letter, stuck it in back pocket, went back to work. Figured it was simple mistake. Some administrator who'd drawn HOA boundary wrong checked wrong box on spreadsheet. It happened. Bureaucracies made errors. But 2 weeks later, mid-April, second envelope showed up. Bigger, heavier, priority mail. Final notice of continued violation. 10 pages. Color photographs of my fence. Taken from road, from expensive drone, from angles that made simple ranch fence look bigger and more imposing. A printout showing my property highlighted in angry red on satellite map. And letter that wasn't polite anymore. Your failure to respond constitutes willful non-compliance. The Meadowbrook Estates HOA Board has unanimously voted to authorize escalated enforcement action. Fines will begin accruing at $500 per day, retroactive to original notice. Failure to comply within 14 days may result in legal action and/or physical removal of non-compliant structures. This is your final warning. Physical removal. I sat at kitchen table that night, letter under yellow light, and felt something shift. Not anger, not yet, just old soldier's instinct. The one that told you when someone was moving pieces into position, when enemy was probing defenses for weaknesses. Someone wanted something, and they were willing to use official-looking paperwork and legal threats to get it. So I did what any former Army engineer would do. I started documenting everything, pulled original property deed from safe yellowed paper, careful handwriting and fading ink, signed by Samuel Steele on the 15th of September 1873. Printed current county parcel map, showing exactly where my 150 acres began and ended. Pulled up Meadowbrook Estates subdivision plat from county recorder, laid all three out on table and compared carefully. Maps didn't match, not even close. My northern fence, the one they complained about, sat full 200 feet inside my property line. It wasn't on their land, wasn't on public right-of-way. Wasn't even visible for most of Meadowbrook unless you walked a far edge and looked for it. But someone had been looking, someone had been watching, and someone wanted it gone. I installed cameras next day, spent $3,000, 6 professional-grade security cameras, motion activated, night vision, audio, weatherproof, backed up to cloud storage and 2 local hard drives. Positioned to cover every approach. Main gate, north fence line, barn, house, equipment shed, overlapping fields, so nothing could happen without at least 2 cameras capturing it. Then I called county surveyor, paid $1,500 for official boundary resurvey. When surveyor finished 3 days later, he handed me leather-bound report confirming everything. My fence was 200 feet inside my own property line. Every post, every wire, every inch on land I owned, free and clear. You having trouble with HOA, folks? Surveyor asked as he packed equipment. He shook head wearily. Your third property owner this month calling me for boundary disputes with HOAs. These developments move in, start thinking they own everything they can see. Then they get mad when old land rights trump new covenants every time. What usually happens? Depends on landowner. Some fight, hire lawyers, go to court, win but spend years and tens of thousands doing it. Some get tired of harassment and give up and sell, which is probably what HOA wants anyway. He looked at me carefully. What kind are you? The kind whose great-great-grandfather bought this land in 1873 with money he saved 15 years after slavery ended, I said, meeting his eyes. The kind whose grandfather held it when neighbors showed up with guns and threats. I'm not selling. Not for any price. Not ever. Surveyor smiled. Good. Texas needs more people who remember what land actually means. Not just property value, land, history, family, legacy. Handed me his card. You need anything else? Remeasurement, testimony, expert witness, call me. I don't like bullies, especially HOAs that think they can rewrite property lines with covenant documents. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. This is probably just getting started. People like that don't stop at one letter. They escalate. He was right. Harassment started small but persistent. Cars driving slowly past my gate. Expensive SUVs. Same vehicle multiple times a day. Slowing down, stopping people, taking photographs. Never getting out. Never identifying themselves. Drone flying over my property at dawn one Tuesday. High-pitched whine of electric motors. I looked up to see expensive quadcopter with camera gimbal hovering 50 feet above barn. I shot it down with .22 rifle. Texas law says property owners can defend airspace from unwanted surveillance. Drone fell in North Pasture. I picked up pieces. No FAA registration. No owner information. Just expensive electronics operated by someone who didn't want to be identified. Kept pieces in box in shed. Evidence. Then came official inspection visits. County code enforcement showing up unannounced. Wednesday morning to investigate. Reported violations. Walked my property 2 hours with clipboards and cameras. Found nothing. Left apologetic but confused about who'd filed complaint. Health department appearing following week claiming someone reported sanitation concern with livestock waste. Another inspection. More clipboards. More photographs. Again, nothing. My cattle operation was properly managed, fully compliant. Inspector told me off record. Someone really has it out for you. This is third bogus complaint in 2 weeks. We're required to investigate every report, but there's nothing wrong here. Someone's wasting our time and yours. Any idea who's filing? He shrugged uncomfortably. Complaints can be filed anonymously, but between you and me, usually when we see this pattern, multiple agencies, multiple false reports, all targeting one property. It's either personal dispute or someone trying to create paper trail for legal harassment. Fire marshal arriving to inspect burn pile after complaint about hazardous burning practices. Took one look at my carefully maintained burn area and said flatly, "Sir, whoever reported this was either mistaken or lying. This is textbook compliant. Sorry you got bothered." After fire marshal left, I sat on porch and thought about patterns. 3 different agencies, 3 false complaints, 3 inspections that found nothing wrong, all within 3 weeks. All targeting my property specifically. Someone was building something, creating paper trail, manufacturing narrative of violations and complaints, setting stage for something bigger. I pulled up Meadowbrook Estates HOA website. There she was on board of directors page. Karen Whitmore, President. Professional headshot. Perfect lighting. Expensive blazer. Calculated smile that didn't reach eyes. Bio listing credentials. Former real estate executive. Community organizer. Architectural review specialist. Dedicated to preserving property values through strong covenant enforcement. I clicked through meeting minutes archive. Read back through 6 months. Found what I was looking for in minutes from January. Board discussed ongoing concern regarding non-conforming property adjacent to northern boundary. President Whitmore provided overview of property owners' refusal to engage. Board discussed options for encouraging compliance with aesthetic standards. President Whitmore proposed exploring potential acquisition options to facilitate future community development corridor access. Motion to authorize President to pursue resolution strategies approved 4-1. There it was, buried in bureaucratic language. Not community standards, not aesthetics. Acquisition options. Development corridor. They wanted my land. Not because fence violated rules, because my land sat between them and something they wanted to build. I dug deeper into County Planning Commission website. Found it in presentation from 8 months ago, submitted by Westridge Properties LLC, Meadowbrook Estates Phase 3, Premium Resort Community, Luxury Home Lots, Private Club Facilities, Golf Course, Spa, and Proposed access road main entrance to Phase 3 expansion cut straight through my northern pasture. They'd been planning this for almost a year. Harassment, violation letters, fake inspections, all designed to pressure me into selling, to make life difficult enough that I'd give up and take their offer and go away. I saved everything. Printed copies, downloaded PDFs, backed up to 3 locations, created timeline documenting every interaction. Then I called Daniel Torres. We'd served together in Afghanistan 2009 to 2011, Kandahar province. Daniel had been JAG, military lawyer attached to our combat engineer unit, stayed in touch after discharge. He'd gone into private practice in San Antonio, specializing in property law and civil rights. He answered on third ring. Marcus, everything okay? His surprise made sense. I wasn't someone who called without reason. You remember when you said if I ever needed lawyer, you owed me one? Silence. Then his voice sharpened. What happened? HOA's trying to steal my land. Tell me everything. I did. Letters, inspections, harassment, development plans showing they'd been targeting my property for months before sending first violation notice. When I finished, Daniel let out low whistle. Marcus, this isn't covenant dispute. This is systematic harassment. Premeditated. They're building paper trail to justify forced acquisition, eminent domain, nuisance lawsuit, something. They're trying to make your property look like problem that needs legal intervention. Can they do that? Not legally, not without proving actual public necessity, which they can't because this is private development. But they can make your life hell trying. They can bury you in legal fees and harassment until you give up. He paused. How much documentation you have? Every letter, every inspection report, camera footage, development plans, county survey proving fence is entirely on my property, timeline cross-referencing everything. Jesus, Marcus. You're documenting this like you're still running military intelligence ops. Old habits, good habits, because what you've built isn't just defense, it's prosecution case. Voice shifted into focused intensity I remembered from mission briefs. Here's what we do. Keep documenting everything, every contact, every letter, every person who shows up, but don't respond to their notices. Don't engage directly. Don't give them anything they can use to claim you're hostile or uncooperative. Just let them escalate? Exactly. Let them escalate. Let them keep making mistakes, because they will, Marcus. Bullies always do. They get confident, think they're untouchable because they have money and lawyers. And then they do something stupid that costs them everything. How do you know they'll screw up? Because I've seen it 100 times. They'll overreach, do something illegal or unethical or both. And when they do, we're going to be ready with evidence that buries them so deep they'll need archaeological equipment to find daylight. Week later, Old Joe Patterson knocked on my door. Joe lived on 40 acres just east of my property. 83 years old. Widower. Spent most days on his porch watching hawks circle. "Marcus, got a minute?" I invited him in, made coffee. Joe sat at my kitchen table, hands trembling slightly as he held the mug, not from age, from anger. "Got a letter from that HOA," he said, claiming my mailbox is non-compliant, demanding I replace it within 30 days or face fines. "Your property part of Meadowbrook?" "Hell no. Been here since '64. My land predates their whole development by 50 years. He pulled out letter, pushed it across table. "But they don't care. They're claiming my mailbox, which sits on my property on my side of the road, somehow violates their aesthetic standards." I read letter. Same format as mine. Same threats. Same manufactured authority. "They're doing this to you too," Joe said quietly. "I heard from Hal down the road. They sent him violation notice about his tractor. Said it was visible eyesore." He shook his head. "We're the old-timers, Marcus. The ones who remember when this was all ranch country. And they want us gone." Something clicked into place. Not just me. A pattern. A strategy. Target all the old landowners whose property bordered their development. Harass them systematically. Create paper trails of violations. Make their lives difficult until they sold. Clear the way for Phase 3 expansion. "What are you going to do?" I asked Joe. He looked at me with tired eyes. "I don't have money for lawyers, Marcus. I'm 83. My wife's gone. My kids moved to Dallas. Fighting this would cost everything I have left." He paused. "I'm thinking about just complying, replacing the mailbox. Whatever they want, because I'm too old and too tired to fight." I thought about Samuel, about my grandfather James facing down neighbors with shotguns, about my father defending this land against developers. "Joe, you don't have to fight alone." "What do you mean?" "I'm already documenting everything they're doing. I've got lawyer. I've got evidence. And if they're targeting multiple properties, that's not just harassment, it's conspiracy." I pulled out my timeline, showed him the pattern. "You let me add your letter to my file. You keep any other correspondence they send, and when this goes to court, and it will, we'll show they're running systematic campaign against all the original landowners." Hope flickered in Joe's eyes. "You'd do that?" "We're neighbors. We're the ones who remember what this land was before they showed up with their covenants and architectural review boards." I held out my hand. "We stand together or we fall separately." Joe shook my hand with grip that was stronger than his trembling suggested. "Your grandfather would be proud, Marcus. He left me his letter, left with something he hadn't had in weeks. Hope. And I added his documentation to my growing file, knowing that when Karen Whitmore fell, she was going to take down her entire scheme with her. 3 weeks before the 3 a.m. raid, Karen showed up in person. I was working on tractor replacing hydraulic line with slow leak when I heard vehicle approaching. Expensive black SUV with dealer plates stopped at my locked gate. Too clean for country roads? Too new? Too expensive? Karen climbed out wearing business clothes, like heading to corporate meeting, not ranch in middle of nowhere. Those same red heels clicking on asphalt. Same calculated confidence. She walked up to locked gate with 3 no trespassing signs and called out, "Mr. Steele, I'd like to speak with you." I shut off tractor, wiped hands on rag, walked over slowly, deliberately. She was studying my property the way General studies battlefield. Eyes moving systematically, calculating distances, looking for advantages and weaknesses. "Miss Whitmore," I said when I reached gate, keeping it close between us. "You're on wrong side of locked gate with multiple posted warnings." She smiled, not friendly, tactical, professional, calculated move in long game. "I wanted to speak directly, Mr. Steele. Away from lawyers and formal correspondence, person to person. Neighbor to neighbor, pulled folder from expensive leather bag. HOA board has authorized me to make generous offer. We're prepared to pay fair market value, actually, above fair market for 50-foot easement along your northern boundary. That's $75,000 for land you're not even actively using. Not interested. You haven't heard full offer yet. Don't need to. My land's not for sale. Not an easement. Not a piece. Not any of it. Mr. Steele, please be reasonable. We're offering substantial money for small strip of property just sitting empty. It's not sitting empty. It's my land. Been my family's land for 150 years. I don't need to be actively using every square foot to keep it. Her smile thinned, calculation happening behind eyes, adjusting tactics in real time. Think about what you could do with that money, Mr. Steele. Improvements, new equipment, your daughter's college fund. I don't have a daughter, and I don't need your money. Something flickered in her expression. Surprise I'd caught her assumption. Irritation her research had failed. The alternative, she said, voice hardening, is that board continues to pursue legitimate code violations, and I promise you, Mr. Steele, we have resources and patience to make this very, very difficult. Ongoing inspections, escalating fines, legal action. It could go on for years. Or you could take our offer, solve the problem, move on with your life. I looked at her for a long moment, studied her face, saw someone who'd probably never lost before, someone who'd always gotten what she wanted through persistence and pressure and money, someone about to learn hard lesson about people who'd been fighting battles longer than she'd been alive. Miss Whitmore, I said quietly, I spent 22 years in United States Army Corps of Engineers. I built bridges under fire in Afghanistan. I cleared IEDs in Iraq. I've had actual enemies trying to kill me with actual weapons. You threatening me with HOA fines and inspections is like threatening submarine with squirt gun. Her jaw tightened. Smile disappeared completely. This is Texas, Mr. Steele. Property rights matter here. And if you refuse to be good neighbor, if you refuse to work with community, I am being good neighbor, I interrupted. I keep to myself. I maintain my property. I follow all actual laws. What I don't do is let people who moved here 5 minutes ago tell me what to do with land my family has held since 1873. Back when your development was still cattle country and this entire area was nothing but dirt roads and rough ranches, your family. Her voice dripped with disdain. You mean the family that probably acquired this land through... She stopped, caught herself. But I heard what she didn't say. Through programs, through handouts, through affirmative action, through something other than legitimate means. Implication was crystal clear. In her mind, people who looked like me didn't earn land like this. My great-great-grandfather bought this land in 1873, I said quietly, paid $47 cash for first 110 acres, money he saved penny by penny for 15 years after emancipation, worked as ranch hand, stable manager, freight hauler, saved everything. And when he finally had enough, he walked into county clerk's office and bought land. Legal purchase, legal deed. Still on file at county recorder if you want to check. Something flickered in Karen's eyes. Not shame, recalculation, adjustment. That's fascinating history, she said, tone shifting to something that tried to sound conciliatory but came across condescending. And I'm sure your family is very proud of that heritage. But Mr. Steele, this isn't about past. This is about future. About progress, about making sure our community can grow and develop and reach its full potential. Your community ends at your property line, I said. Mine starts at mine, and never the two shall meet. We'll see about that. She adjusted blazer, pulling it closed like armor. Mr. Steele, I've dealt with difficult property owners before. Stubborn people who thought they could stand in way of progress. And I've never lost. Not once. So think about that. Think about what happens to people who try to fight HOAs with resources and determination. Think about how this ends for you if you keep refusing to cooperate. She climbed into SUV and drove off, leaving dust hanging in still air. I stood at my gate long time after she left, watching sun drop toward horizon, and I knew the way you know storm is coming before you feel first drop of rain, that this wasn't over. This was just beginning. 3 days before the raid. I was reviewing camera footage routine security check I did weekly when I noticed something wrong. Camera 3, the one covering North Gate angle. The feed was dark, not offline, not disconnected. Just dark. I checked system logs. Camera was reporting normal operation, motion sensors triggering, but video was black. I walked out to check it physically. Lens cap had come loose, blocked the view completely. Simple mechanical failure. Could happen to any camera. But this particular camera covered the north access drive, the angle that would show Karen's SUV during her previous surveillance visits over last 2 months. The timestamps that would prove she'd been watching my property repeatedly, planning this raid. Without it, her lawyers could argue raid was one-time enforcement action, not part of systematic harassment pattern. I felt cold wash over me. How long had it been offline? I checked logs carefully. 3 days. Camera had been dark for 3 days. 3 days when Karen might have been here. Watching. Planning. And I had no record of it. I fixed lens cap immediately. Tested feed. Perfect again. But damage was done. 3-day gap in coverage. 3 days of potential surveillance I couldn't prove. I called Daniel. "We have a problem," I said. "Camera covering North Gate failed 3 days ago. Lens cap came loose." Long pause. Which footage did we lose? The part where Karen's SUV was parked during previous surveillance visits. The timestamps proving she'd been watching my property planning this. I heard Daniel exhale sharply. "Marcus, we still have other cameras. We have raid itself. 911 call. Development plans. But this was our proof of stalking, of premeditation beyond just development documents. True, her lawyers will claim those plans were just contingent proposals, not evidence of intent to harass." Silence. "We're not dead, but we're hurt." I sat down heavily. One camera. One technical failure. One gap in evidence. And suddenly Karen's defense just got stronger. "There's something else," Daniel said, voice dropping. "Remember your neighbor? Ed Grayson? Retired deputy. 2 properties over. What about him?" He gave statement to Karen's lawyers. Says you've been increasingly paranoid and hostile past several months. Says you threatened him when he was walking near your property line in June. Says he's been worried about your mental state. "That's a goddamn lie." "I know, but he's willing to testify." "And Marcus." Daniel's voice dropped further. "He's white retired sheriff's deputy with 30 years service and spotless record. Jury is going to find him extremely credible. Why would he lie for her? Because Karen Whitmore is paying him. We found bank deposit in Grayson's account from LLC that traces back to Karen's real estate holdings. $15,000, dated 2 days before he gave statement. I closed my eyes. Can we prove connection? Maybe. If we can subpoena LLC records, if we can demonstrate payment was contingent on testimony, but that takes time and it's not guaranteed." Pause. "Marcus, we still have 911 call. We still have video of raid itself. But her lawyers are going to argue you were initial aggressor, that their security team was responding to perceived threats. That Karen's 911 call was based on genuine fear after you attacked them. They trespassed after cutting my gate, true. But with Grayson's testimony painting you as unstable and missing camera footage making it harder to prove systematic stalking, Karen's lawyers are going to argue self-defense. They're going to claim you overreacted to legitimate covenant enforcement." My hands were shaking, not from anger, from something deeper. Old combat reflex. The one that kicked in when situation went sideways, when perfect plan hit reality, and everything started falling apart. I'd felt this before. Kandahar, 2010. Mission that was supposed to be routine bridge inspection. We'd walked into ambush. Lost 2 men. I'd frozen for maybe 3 seconds. 3 seconds that felt like hours before training kicked back in. 3 seconds when my hands shook just like this. "Marcus?" Daniel's voice cut through memory. "You still there?" "Yeah. Sorry. Just processing." "I know this is hard, but we're not losing. We just need to be smart. We need more evidence. And we need to prepare for possibility. This goes to trial and gets ugly." After we hung up, I sat on my porch in darkness. hands still trembling slightly. Old ghost from Afghanistan whispering in back of my mind, what if you freeze again? What if you can't hold the line this time? I looked out at land. I might lose despite doing everything right. Thought about Samuel, my great-great-grandfather, who'd faced worse odds. Who'd bought land when entire legal system was designed to prevent him from owning anything? Who'd held on to it when neighbors literally tried to kill him? He'd fought with less evidence, fewer allies, system actively working against him, and he'd won because he refused to quit. I went back inside, pulled out old trunk my father had left, the one with all family documents and photographs and historical records. Started going through it methodically, looking for anything I might have missed, and there, wrapped in oilcloth at bottom of trunk, I found something I'd forgotten existed, a second deed. Dated the 12th of April, 1875. Samuel Steele had bought another parcel, 40 acres adjacent to his original 110-acre purchase, paid $23 every cent he could save in 2 years. Property description put it directly north of his original holding, extending property line another 150 feet into what was now supposedly Meadowbrook Estates territory. I stared at document, heart pounding. Karen's development road? The one they planned through my northern pasture? It wasn't just on my land. It was on land that had been in my family even longer. Land they never knew existed because they never did proper title search going back to Reconstruction. I called Daniel, didn't care, it was past midnight. I found something. What? Instantly awake. Second deed. From 1,875. Samuel bought 40 more acres adjacent to original purchase. Property line extends 150 feet further north than we thought. Silence. Then, Marcus, are you telling me Karen's development road? It's not just on my land. It's on land that's been in my family 149 years. Land they never knew existed. Holy hell. Can we use this? Use it? Marcus, this changes everything. This proves they didn't just trespass. They tried to steal land with even deeper historical significance. Land that predates their development by 144 years. Voice electric with excitement. This isn't just evidence. This is kill shot. This ends the case. My hands had stopped shaking. Trial began 3 weeks later. Karen's legal team fought hard. Expert witnesses on HOA authority. Tried to claim she was acting within legitimate enforcement. Tried to paint me as uncooperative property owner who escalated minor dispute. Daniel dismantled them piece by piece. Played video of 3 a.m. raid. Showed jury bolt cutters cutting gate. Karen directing security team. Trespass. Confrontation. My controlled response. Played 911 audio. Let jury hear Karen's voice screaming, "Armed black man," over and over. Presented development plans. Showed timeline proving 8 months of planning before first violation letter. Then dropped bomb. Your Honor, defense would like to enter new evidence. Deed dated the 12th of April, 1875, showing Colonel Steele's great-great-grandfather, Samuel Steele, purchased additional 40 acres adjacent to original parcel, projected it on courtroom screen. Yellowed paper. Samuel's signature. County clerk's seal. This deed extends Colonel Steele's property line additional 150 feet north of where defendant believed it to be. Which means development road that Meadowbrook Estates planned, the road that motivated this entire harassment campaign, wasn't just on Colonel Steele's land. Pulled up overlay. 1,875 property line. Planned resort road. Perfect match. It was on land his family has held for 149 years. Land defendant and her HOA never knew existed because they never bothered to conduct proper historical title search. Courtroom erupted. Karen's face went ashen. Then Daniel called me to stand. Colonel Steele, when Miss Whitmore called 911 and repeatedly identified you as armed black man attacking them, what went through your mind? I looked at jury. 12 faces. Mixed races and ages. I thought I was going to die, I said quietly. I've been in combat. I've been shot at by actual enemies with actual intent to kill me. I've cleared IEDs knowing one wrong move would be my last. But I have never been more afraid than standing in my own yard at 3 in the morning, knowing police were responding to call describing me as dangerous black man with gun threatening white people. Paused. Because I know what happens in those situations. I know statistics. I know names. I know how many black men have been shot by police responding to calls just like that one. And Karen Whitmore knew too. She used that language deliberately. She weaponized police as tool of harassment, counting on implicit bias to create scenario where I might be killed for defending my own property. Absolute silence in courtroom. I'm alive today because Sergeant Hayes read situation correctly. Because he saw cut gate and bolt cutters and realized something didn't match narrative. But if it had been different officers, or if they'd arrived 60 seconds earlier when I still had shotgun in hand, or if I'd moved wrong, met jury's eyes, I'd be dead, and Karen Whitmore would probably be claiming self-defense. Jury deliberated 3 hours, guilty on all counts, sentencing 2 weeks later. Judge Vasquez looked at Karen for a long moment. Miss Whitmore, you organized coordinated scheme to force decorated military veteran off land his family has held since 1873. You manufactured violations. You harassed him with fake inspections. You organized armed raid at 3 in the morning, and when Colonel Steele defended his property, you called 911 and used specific language designed to make responding officers believe he was active violent threat. Paused. What you did wasn't just criminal. It was an attempt to weaponize law enforcement against black man defending his constitutional rights on his own property. You tried to use institutional power and implicit bias as weapons. Another pause. You're sentenced to 7 years in state prison, 3 years for criminal charges, 4 additional years for hate crime enhancements based on your use of racially coded language with intent to cause harm. You're also fined $75,000 in restitution to Colonel Steele, and you are permanently barred from holding any HOA leadership position in state of Texas. They led her away in handcuffs. 1 year later, civil suit settled. Meadowbrook Estates Insurance Company offered $450,000. I took it. Money went into trust, legal fees, property improvements, and significant portion donated to legal defense fund for other landowners facing HOA harassment. I was replacing fence section using same materials my grandfather had used when truck pulled up. Young black man climbed out. Maybe 30. Nervous, but determined. Colonel Steele, I'm James Walker. I own 40 acres outside Austin. HOA there is trying, same thing Karen Whitmore did. Fake violations. Harassment. Anonymous complaints. They want me gone so they can expand their development. I set down tools. You got documentation? Everything. Every letter. Every inspection. Timeline going back 9 months. You got lawyer? Can't afford one yet. That's why I'm here. He looked at me with hope and desperation. I heard what you did. How you fought back. I was hoping you could tell me how to. I called Daniel before he could finish. Hermano, I've got someone here who needs your help. Pro bono. Daniel didn't hesitate. Send me his information. I'll call tonight. I hung up, looked at James. You're going to fight this, and you're going to win. Because law is on your side, and now you've got people who know exactly how to use it. James's eyes filled with tears. Thank you, sir. I didn't know where else to turn. Don't thank me. Just don't give up your land. That land is yours. It's your family's legacy. And it's worth fighting for. He nodded, wiped eyes, left with hope and expression that hadn't been there when he arrived. I went back to work on fence. That evening, Joe Patterson walked over from his property. Marcus, wanted to show you something. He held out letter from Meadowbrook Estates, HOA. My stomach tightened. What now? Read it. Dear Mr. Patterson, the Meadowbrook Estates HOA Board wishes to formally apologize for previous correspondence regarding your property. After comprehensive review of property boundaries and historical records, we acknowledge that your property is not subject to HOA jurisdiction. All previous violation notices are hereby rescinded. We apologize for any inconvenience. I looked up at Joe. He was smiling. They're backing off, he said. Not just from me, from all the old-timers. Word got out about your case, about what happened to Karen, and suddenly they're being very, very careful about who they harass. Good, better than good, Marcus. You didn't just save your land. You saved all of ours. He paused. Your grandfather would be proud. After he left, I stood on my porch watching sun set over hills. Same hills Samuel Steele had seen when he first walked this property in 1873 with $47 an impossible dream. Same hills that would watch my children and their children defend what was ours. Because that's what land means. Not property, not investment, legacy. And no HOA president in world was ever going to take that away. I walked inside, pulled out old photograph of Samuel standing in front of original homestead. Tomorrow, I'd frame it, hang it in workshop where I could see it every day. Reminder of what he'd built, what he'd fought for, what he'd passed down through 6 generations, and what I'd just ensured would pass down for 6 more. The fight was over, but the legacy would continue.